Good morning. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, September 6th. Join us live with Decentralized TV. And today we are covering quite a few important subjects. We bring everyone live. Jesus B. Smith, take the wheel. We have Greg and we have Tamp. Welcome aboard, everyone. How was your weekend?
Good, man.
Good weekend. Full of football.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Some crazy games, too.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know what the hell Carolina was thinking. Whew.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there was so many games. I mean, unreal games. I don't know how anything takes a cake above Florida State, LSU, though. My goodness.
Yeah. God, what a game that was. That was crazy.
I stayed up for every last second of it.
Unbelievable. Go ahead, Jaime. What were you gonna say?
Well, we don't want the markets. We're wondering where things are. Let's get rid of this little bad boy here.
Oh, now we have
Get
sound.
control of
Yeah.
this.
Oh,
There's
there
sound
he
now.
is.
Oh, there was no sound. Sweet.
No, I
Zero.
don't know.
Okay. Oh my God.
Like the whole intro played, and that was like, it's like, well, it looks cool.
Guys, I'm learning here. I'm learning. All right. So let's see what's going on with Bitcoin. We see Bitcoin is still at the bottom of the channel where we were. We're seeing also on the weekly, it is still stagnant. It is at the bottom of the Fibonacci channel. We could see a rise to wash out the early shorts. So a short squeeze could go up to 23,000 more or less before you take a nice little dump. And we had these 50 moving average coming down where we could reach up to, or just come down and help us buy and move on into this. In terms of the general market,
Yeah, I was going to say absolutely, and I'll go ahead and take over the general market. We got the S&P right now that's up around 0.5%. The Dow's up 0.6 as well, and Nasdaq is following suit too. They're all in the green, and they actually gapped up yesterday when futures opened up. Really, I think more so just because of the oversold conditions that we saw in the market overall. One of the big reasons that we saw some volatility across global markets yesterday, if you guys were keeping track, obviously we saw OPEC release the news that they're actually slowing production, which skyrocketed oil and only it seems to add to the supply problem as far as oil is concerned. And we also heard from Russia and that they're cutting off natural gas to Europe. We're going to get into a lot of that stuff as well as many other things. But I wanted to kind of hit up, and I'm taking over the show, Jaime. So I apologize for
yeah,
your thumb.
even Lord agrees with you. Lord,
Don't yeah, yeah. But so yeah. I'm looking at what's been going on over the weekend. There's a ton of stuff that's happened. So just going to give you a heads up of what's to come on the show today. We got some things related to crypto. Could we see a huge bounce in Bitcoin, and why? Or do we have the Ethereum merge that officially kicked off and got underway. And we got some other things to talk about in the traditional finance world as well. We're going to get onto that in just a second. But if you guys have not yet already hit that thumbs up, please make sure you do so. Hit that thumbs up on your way in the door. Hit that like and subscribe if you're not already, because each and every morning from 9 to 10 a.m., we cover everything related to crypto markets and some of the traditional finance world as well. If you guys want to get more info on that, make sure you do on all those things as well. As go follow me at OnTheChaos on Twitter or Instagram. You can go follow at Hello Metafy as well on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever your favorite social media platform is, at Greg Chick 33. And then you have, oh shoot, I was on such a roll. Is it at Tamp? Is it at Tamp?
Yeah, at Coach Tamp.
There
Coach
we go.
Tamp. We can fix that.
Yeah. There you go. Go follow all of us on our social media platforms to get more of what you love here in the morning, because we will be posting all day, baby. Let's go ahead and get into some things. The first things first, and I wanted to kind of we're gonna get the somber notes out of the way. All right. Jaime, if you could share my screen,
Yes, sir.
and we can kind of get to this one, and it's the Bed Bath and Beyond story. Now, this has been really tough. And this kind of goes with what we were talking about in the title. If you guys caught today's title, and the real story with Bed Bath and Beyond, right? If you guys didn't catch the news, the CFO of Bed Bath and Beyond leaped to his death on Sunday, and 18 stories from the Jenga Tower in New York. And this is the thing about, I don't want to. I feel like I have to tread a little lightly here, obviously, because someone's family was deeply affected by this. The guy had 2 daughters, and that he left behind is Gustavo Arnal. He was 52, and he was basically running the ship. They had fired their CEO, and he was kind of the guy. There was some speculation that perhaps he had been involved in a pump and dump when it came to Bed Bath and Beyond. There's a $1.2 billion lawsuit against him and the company. They just laid off 20% of their employees. There was just so many things. The company, I think, in my opinion, is probably going to go bankrupt. And you have guys like Ryan Cohen that came in here, pushed the stock up, and then it crashes right back down. We've seen a lot of this over the course of the last 18 to 24 months with GameStop, AMC, and this one tragically ended in death. It's a really sad story, but I think it just kind of gives us the reality of what can happen when you see pump and dumps like this happen. Guys, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. This is very sad. Just a situation that is totally avoidable as well. So, I mean, as bad as things get, and believe me, I'm not in his shoes directly, but I have been involved in things where I thought all was lost when it came to finances, when it came to just life events, where you don't think it could get any worse. But in those moments when you have these terrible thoughts, some of the worst things you can do is add to it, especially in the terms of alcohol or drugs, and compound the issues in your head. Nothing, no amount of money, no situation is ever so bad where you need to take your life. There's always a way out. There's always people there willing to help. And this is sad that it came all the way to this, but also it's just something that if a situation is bigger than you, reach out for help before it gets to this. Like we said, Bed Bath and Beyond went from a legitimate company to a meme stock. Ryan Cohen stepped in, gave a lifeline, so to speak. What was done with that lifeline, what happened after that, all spiraled down into something that he thought was, too much for him to handle. But it's just a sobering reminder that nothing in life is so big that you feel like you need to take your own or someone else's for that matter. So, this is just, it's sad. But I do agree with you. I think Bed Bath and Beyond is done.
Yeah, really tough stuff.
Yeah, and it's quite sobering when you realize, and I remember you mentioning, Brad, you brought up the Bed Bath and Beyond pump as it was occurring, and you were speaking in a level-headed way, meaning, hey, watch out for this, and then you got quite a bit flack from that. So you can only imagine the flack he could have had internally also on while all this was occurring. We don't know until they declare it, but what his role was. So there's a lot of outside pressure when there's this type of pump and dump is literally what occurred. The mission itself, there's always someone holding the bag at the end of it. And in this case, it were a lot of investors holding the bag. And it seems that now this CFO was holding the bag in the end, where he couldn't just carry through with it. So it's pretty sobering, and we should think in those terms whenever we see something violently move and we understand the business model that it can't be this way, or we know it's a dying zombie company. Don't jump in. I mean, unless you're willing to risk it all, just don't do it, because it always ends in tragedy, either financial or, in this case, livelihood and families affected.
Do you think this boils down to everybody trying to get that quick buck and not work for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely something that many newer investors were getting accustomed to. I mean, you think about how many people came into the stock market for the first time over COVID, right? And then one of the things that we saw a lot of were these huge pump and dumps. And listen, I mean, you can make the argument that there was some irresponsible shorting going on, and that's also true, especially with the GameStop. And that's kind of really what kicked a lot of it off. Over 100% of shares available were shorted on GameStop, which was absolutely mind blowing. And so there is a balance, I guess, a balancing act. But I think now we're getting to the point to where you have, the Wall Street Bets crowd just trying to search for anything that they can get that next GameStop type of high. And each one of them is kind of like a drug. It just keeps getting worse and worse. So my hope is that this didn't push too many people out of the market for good, because that's always a risk that you run, and that we always want more people in the markets in general. I think that that's kind of one of the biggest lessons that we can take from this is that, trading with money that you can't afford to lose, or not understanding the emotional toll that taking a loss like this can have on you, I think is two key things that I think are big takeaways from this whole situation.
And the other thing is, do your own research. We see this in shitcoins. Like, we'll see these pump and dumps, and especially if you're in the industry, if you've done your research, this shitcoin or this stock is not building out. It's either languishing or dying. And all of a sudden you see this move. Use your common sense. Don't, as Greg mentioned, it could be a quick buck, but trust me, the likelihood everyone else has been priced in who began this, you're the one jumping in at the pump. You're more likely going to end up holding the bag. So think about it before you jump in.
Yeah, Peter is asking, does Wall Street Bets have anything to do with this? I think that they have some contributions. I mean, Bed Bath & Beyond has always been one of those ones that lived on Wall Street Bets for a while. There was a list of meme type stocks that always kind of gained some traction, right? We have BlackBerry and Nokia, some of the other ones that also moves. It wasn't just AMC. There was a nice list. If you go check out swaggystocks.com, they actually provide a pretty decent breakdown of mentions in Wall Street Bets and on Twitter and stuff like that. And this is kind of one of those similar moves. I wouldn't say that Wall Street Bets was the only player in this move in particular, but Ryan Cohen being on the board of GameStop, I'm sure had a lot to do with the fact, or one big reason why many people hopped into Bed Bath & Beyond as well.
Absolutely. Stay chill, my friends. Stay chill in this market.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Moving on. We have a lot of things to cover today. One of them that I thought was interesting was why the millennial and Gen Z investors have an edge in today's markets. And this is an article that came out on Yahoo Finance that it was no secret that 2022 obviously has presented its own challenges as far as investing is concerned. It's been a really rough year. And I personally thought that we could see a better half of 2022. And that just hasn't happened yet. And now we're coming into historically what is the worst month for investors, and that is September. And we'll see how September plays out, especially as we head into the rest of the year and into election year and to the elections in November. But looking at some interesting things here. In a recent episode of Yahoo Finance's Uncut, Kelly Cox, the U.S. investment analyst at eToro, and Jay Woods, the chief marketing strategist at Drive Wealth, broke down some of methods investors are using to navigate its historically difficult investing environment, and mentioned that Gen Z and millennials actually could potentially have a little bit of an edge. And a lot of this is related to technology, and could exposure from a millennial and Gen Z standpoint give investors, younger investors, a little bit of an edge over, say, the boomers, for example?
I think in every boom and bust era, it has been the younger generation that has taken over in this case, because they have a better understanding of this. Usually, for example, World War I, the old money got wiped out with the new one coming in. World War II, we saw the same thing. And now we have, not that we're, knock on wood, World War III, but
Yeah, yeah.
based on world situations and technology, those usually carry the market in the next iteration. And there's a big transfer of wealth usually in these situations.
I mean,
And
it happens all the time in history. New technology comes out. The younger's always the quickest to adopt it because they've grown something. Even if it's brand new, they've been experiencing something similar to it, right? It's just the next iteration, so they're able to adapt quicker than some of the older crowd.
Right. And it's not just the access to information, it's the ability to consolidate the information into something that is absolutely usable right then and there. I think that's really neat. And the younger generations, they're just growing up on technology and streamlining and immediacy and having something in your face right then and there. And it's really different. I mean, old heads, and Don says we don't have the habits of old heads in new markets with tech. And you think about it, like, you know, if you're having kids right now that are of grade school age and they're asking you for help with homework, it's not so much that the old heads can't help, it's that we don't know how to use the technology that they're using, that their homework is based on, right? So it's kind of the same type of thing where they have access to information in an immediate way that really makes them a force to reckon with in today's market.
That doesn't help much when they, change how you're supposed to do math. Apparently, the
I don't know
old math
about that.
still works, right?
Absolutely. And that's the advantage of this. Even Philip mentioned, Don touched on this last night on this very subject, on the agility of the millennials versus the Gen Z, versus the boomers, the rest of us that are not part of this generation.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought this was an interesting stat that they took out as well. eToro found that 80% of their investors buy or sell assets on a monthly basis or less often. Retail investors have largely held their ground during the first year sell-off. When it comes to stock, 65% of the survey respondents held their investments, while 29% held and bought more, leaving only 6% who sold their investments. So, we just got done talking about meme stocks, right? And how there's these quick pump and dumps and that sort of thing. But I think that there's, according to eToro anyway, there is a subset of retail investors of the younger generation, millennials and Gen Zers, that are holding on to and hanging on to this. And I think, just to tie it back into cryptocurrency, I think a lot of that has to do with the hodl theme. I think there's a lot of hodlers out there than many may actually realize. And if you guys aren't familiar with eToro, that's kind of what cryptocurrency is, what eToro, the platform, is predicated upon. And so it's a social media platform for crypto investors primarily. They have stocks and stuff like that on there too, but that's kind of how everything got started for them. So do you think that there's something to be said for the hodlers out there, and is that something more of what we're going to see of? I mean, obviously headlines are made when we see some of these pump and dump type things happen because it's exciting, right? Because it gets crazy and volatile. But it seems to me that there is a pretty large group of investors that are actually holding on to their stuff.
That's the old heads in Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin's notorious for hodl, right? But even Bitcoin, if you just hold it, your valuation just goes up, right? Unless you can take out a loan against that for immediate fiat to be able to use in real life, or unless you can put that Bitcoin on some sort of a Lightning Network DeFi type platform where you can earn yield from it, then all you have is a valuation that's rising with no access to that, right? So I think it's a little bit of a good mix where you have the old school mentality of hodl, but that actually really only lies on the Bitcoin ideology. A lot of this DeFi stuff is buy, hold for a minute, right? Don't hold forever. Use it to make a yield, use it for leverage, and then dump. So it just depends on kind of what platform you're willing to risk yourself to.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that's the great lesson that crypto has brought to this younger generation is get a minimum viable product. In other words, invest, get in there, fail fast, and then learn quickly. And as CeeLo mentioned, they are masters of consuming microdoses of information that are no use to learning that way. So TikTok, Jonathan Grunfeld is also present in this stream, and he's a TikTok master at it. So a lot of people are using it to funnel traffic onto their sites and their projects. So same thing with investing. You see, once they fail quickly, you start seeing the hodls come through, dollar cost averaging come through. A lot of these concepts, although they're old, you see a highlight of them as time progresses in this new industry by the millennials and Gen Z investors.
All great
And-
things. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just get involved. I think that's the key is get involved. Like Peter said, execute, build, get feedback, get better, and don't stop. Just move forward.
Yeah, and Don made a good point too. Like, especially on these pump and dumps or these altcoins that can move, even Bitcoin, right? In Bitcoin, a 20% move is a joke. That's a daily occurrence, damn near, right? So the younger generations that are exposed to this sort of investing, you can compare it to stocks all you want. Like Don said, if they're holding meme stocks through hundreds of percent move, 20% move is nothing, right? So we might see volatility in the markets that scare old heads, scare hodlers that are nothing to compared to today's younger investor. Microdosing of information that they'll hold through what we see as very volatile markets. I mean, that's a new mentality moving forward on, our overall exposure to the market.
100%. That all great insights, guys. I just thought that was interesting. It seems as if we might be seeing a new type of investor in the younger generation, which is a little bit refreshing, because I think that at the end of the day, you do see a lot of the headlines pointing out the mistakes that myself as a millennial and Gen Zers actually make, but there seems to be a large majority that are out there doing the right thing. So it's good to see. Moving on, I actually brought up this one article, and I may feel free to put this up on the screen as well. But Yahoo Finance put up a new acronym for big tech. Are you guys familiar with FANG stocks? Do you know what they are?
It's an acronym of a whole bunch of stocks, right? Almost like a informal mutual fund.
Yeah.
Right?
So
The blue chips kind of.
sort of. It's all tech related. So Jim Cramer years ago coined the term FANG stocks, and it was Facebook, Alphabet or Google, Amazon, Netflix, and Apple. Did I cover them all? Yeah. And so that was the acronym and the conglomerate. The largest tech stocks in the stock market were that. Well, now Yahoo Finance is making the argument that it needs to be changed to Matana. And I feel like Matana doesn't make any sense. There has to be a better way to spell these out. I don't disagree that we need to kick out Netflix, right? Netflix doesn't belong there. And I love the fact that they put NVIDIA back in there, because I think NVIDIA is a far superior company to Netflix. But you have Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, Google, NVIDIA, Amazon, and that is what they're using to make their acronym. And I think my old partner, Christian, Fat Man Zoom, came up with his own acronym, which is what Fat Man Zoom stood for, which is genius. Like, we need to be something like that you can actually remember. What the hell is Matana? Guys, let us know in the comments what you think about this. But I know this is a little bit leaning a little bit more towards traditional finance, but anybody else disagree with this list, the Matana list?
I do. Netflix has no business. You'd be better off putting YouTube on there than Netflix, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Which
that's
is-
just it. YouTube is actually bigger than Netflix, which falls under the Alphabet, conglomerate.
Yeah, and YouTube's still growing. It has YouTube TV. You have YouTube Shorts. You have all kind of stuff happening on YouTube right now. Netflix is they're damn near turning into Blockbuster. They need to hurry up. And the shows they're releasing too, they're not good enough to hang on. I mean, I love Netflix. I want them to succeed, but right now it looks like they're starting to slow in the race.
Trying to come up with a
Oh
good
yeah, because Prime's got them down pat right now.
It's not just Prime. I mean, it is super crowded in the streaming services right now. I mean, you have Paramount Plus, you have Discovery Plus, Disney Plus is now actually has more active users across all their platforms, such as Hulu and ESPN Plus than Netflix. So if you really want to get down to it, Disney is the bigger streaming platform now, and it happened in a year and a half. which is absolutely insane. I think we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary of Disney Plus in November. So they are in trouble big time. So I do think that, NVIDIA deserves to take the spot from Netflix. I just feel like, the acronym needs to be better. So let us know in the
I
comments.
I do
what you
too.
guys think.
Why do you think the drop for Meta?
The drop for Meta, I think that, and I think it's also unfair. Meta Platforms. Did you guys catch any of the Joe Rogan and Mark Zuckerberg interview?
Yes.
How amazing was that?
I think Mark Zuckerberg is going to get in trouble with that with the FBI.
You think
I
so?
think
Why is that?
I do. So for those that don't know what's going on, just on this side note, one of the highlights of the Rogan Zuckerberg conversation was that Zuckerberg essentially admitted that they privatized different very, very political instances, especially regarding the 2020 election. That they basically what do you want to call it? Like they took down things or would not allow the pushing forward of specifically the Hunter Biden laptop story, right? That was the one that
they essentially censored.
They censored it, right? And he was saying they did that because the story was so big and had such possible ramifications on not only a U.S. election level but also a worldwide economic power level, that they were protecting users from what was not verified information, is what Zuckerberg said. Unlike platforms like Twitter, they said Twitter would allow retweets of information without verifying the validity of such a huge story. So, I mean, you say that kind of thing, I think the FBI is going to come after that because you're essential. So what now? So the information that the FBI said is now false. Is that what Zuckerberg is saying? It's not a confirmed story. So the FBI is false? Or are you essentially saying, yes, we did censor it and thus we swayed, just overall thought processes and on such a huge story? We can talk about this one a little bit.
Yeah, it is interesting, especially because part of that show, he also talked about how he has a good relationship with the FBI. So we'll see. As far as that's concerned, I do think that obviously we know about the double-edged sword with social media. I think that there's some really great things about social media, and I think that there's also some pretty terrible things about social media and the biases. You see how clear that they can be from platform to platform. But what I will say is, from a standpoint of technology and like just tying it back to the topic at hand of it being one of the largest tech companies in the market, Facebook and Meta Platforms in general has $40 billion in free cash flow every year. And yeah, they're slowing down a little bit, but they're investing $10 billion a year in the metaverse. And I think that they are on the right track. I think that the amount of money that they're investing in the metaverse is a good call. It's going to take a little bit before, investors and that sort of thing actually buy into that. I think that there is a risk that they don't actually become the biggest player in the metaverse, but I think that they will be a big player in that. I think it's going to be more of a land grab as far as that's concerned. But yeah, I mean, point well taken, Tamp. I mean, I think there's obviously those inherent risks. I'm not quite sure it's enough to actually kick Facebook off of the big tech names, though. At least not yet.
I agree with that, and I think Indo Crypto's got a point here when it comes to Netflix will move to ban cryptocurrency ads.
I did see
Facebook
that.
tried that. Yeah. Facebook tried to do that already and failed. I mean, they successfully banned ads, but now they've completely gone into the side of AI and crypto. And I think that's the next big reckoning, honestly, is when AI, artificial intelligence, and cryptocurrency finally merge, as crypto being basically the financial platform and the financial just treadmill that takes AI to the next level and allows it to basically run on its own through smart contracts with digital payments. When we see that merge, I think that is something of unparalleled, just parabolic moves for both sectors. And I think this is why Peter also says, pay attention to tech stocks as well. Bitcoin does seem to model tech stocks or just the tech stock movement. But I think where crypto will get a massive, massive crypto and Bitcoin head up over tech is when AI and crypto do finally merge. And right now, Meta is poised for that. I mean, right now it looks like they're kind of into gaming, maybe, 4D, 5D, whatever they want to call it, metaverse stuff. But when they successfully bridge those two together, it's something special. So Indo Crypto, again, saying Netflix is banning crypto ads. Again, you just added Netflix to this new FANG, acronym, and they're doing everything 5 steps behind Facebook, which was dropped off. I mean, it just doesn't seem to make sense when I think we're right at the back door of these two tech stocks, or these two techs emerging and really going parabolic.
Yeah. The other crazy part from the metaverse standpoint, and what Zuckerberg was talking about, was like the Oculus, the next version of Oculus. It looks badass. I didn't really have too much of a desire to get into the older Oculus, but just all the applications and the ability to connect with others virtually like that, and some of the really cool tech that he was talking about in the new Oculus sounds absolutely amazing. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that are like, oh, well, it's going to keep people inside, blah, blah, blah. And maybe that might be the case. But Zuckerberg actually made the argument that there is no replacement for being in the same room with somebody. But if you can't do that, this gives you the opportunity to kind of give you the next best thing. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
So one of my nephews was mentioning how there are Oculus users or metaverse users or VR users where they're completely paralyzed, or in real world they cannot make any of the moves.
Wow. Yeah.
And yet they're big stars in the metaverse, because it's almost like Ready Player One. It doesn't matter what you are in real life, because you have access to this technology. Now you can actually interface with other people around the world and make a huge impact in a way where you're not even prejudged anymore, or even thinking in they're disabled. The mental constructs of humankind that judge immediately before they even know you.
Yeah.
So this enables them to have a voice, and they have a huge following. I wish I could remember the artist, but you're seeing even concerts occurring in Asia, and everyone's participating. I remember him staying up late at night to watch this. As uncle, you want to watch this? I'm like, bro, I got work to do. But you can see this engagement occurring. So it does open up huge doors for interface. But I agree with face-to-face. You can't beat that when it comes to this. But in certain circumstances, metaverse actually enables that.
It's crazy. I think,
agree.
yeah. Go ahead, Greg.
I was going to agree with what you're saying, Jaime. And to me, the biggest thing is, just like anything else in the world, is it's an awesome tool in moderation, right? But it has that potential downside of being stuck in the matrix for way too long, right? And while the virtual stuff's great, it's not going to replace human contact.
The hygiene go to shit.
It's just crazy though, because I hear what you're saying and I'm on board. There is no replacement for human contact. But one day there will be. One day human contact is not going to be the norm, right? And during the transition period, whether it's Oculus or whoever gets us there first, and we find ourselves getting lost in the metaverse and bringing into what Jaime is talking about with making friends in the metaverse, making friends in real life, we will have a term for, hey, this is my friend Brad. He's my friend in real life, but I don't like him in the metaverse. Maybe he's not my meta friend. He's my in real life friend, right? And we'll have a whole term for that. And everybody alive will basically have 2 personalities, right? You'll have your real life personality, and then you'll have your metaverse personality. So and maybe they match up, maybe they don't. You can definitely see it both ways. And I think there's going to be a huge sector of the population that is going to be okay with not having any human contact, right? Why do I need it? I can get sick. I can get this. I can get that. I can stay in the metaverse and I'm perfectly happy. I'm accepted here. I'm not judged here. I'm popular here. It's almost like the prison mentality, right? Like, I don't want to go back into the real world after I've been in prison for 30 years. I have purpose here. I have influence here. I'm important here, right? So why would I want to go back into the real world where I'm a nobody? So you can see it becoming normal, whether that's good or bad, right? That's not the argument here. It's just the argument that I think this is going to become very, very normal that you are entrenched in an absolute alternate reality.
Damn, that
It's
was
crazy
deep.
to think about. I
That
mean,
was
if we had like some of my products
was real
and
deep.
we smoked on that, like we could really get deep into all of this, right?
Oh
Really
my
deep.
God. Yeah, we really could.
All right,
should
But
be right
like
back.
it or not, it will be very normal. It will be very normal.
And this directly ties into like Neuralink and that type of shit too, right? Like, I
Yes.
mean, we could just really go down the rabbit hole as far as that's concerned. And that kind of shit scares me. Like, I don't know how I would feel. Like, part of it sounds pretty cool to just be like my own personal Google all of the time. But then the other part's kind of like, well, some shit short circuits in there and I'm fucked. Like, or somebody else can come in and just start controlling my brain. Like, who's going to hack my brain, right? Like, that kind of stuff. You really, there's, man, I know that we're a long ways off before any of that becomes a real strong reality, but who's going to be the first person that gets their brain hacked and like does some crazy shit? So,
I mean, think about it. Why are all these big companies investing all this money into the metaverse, right? Because
Right.
if you're in this alternate reality and this is where we spend even half of our time, much less all of it, then everything that makes us money in real life will make us money in the alternate world, right? Real estate. People are like, well, what's the point of metaverse or, virtual real estate? That will have a place in the new world, right? Where you have access to hang out with other people in the metaverse. Any sort of advertising, right? Who's the other real popular EV vehicle company than Tesla? They start with an R.
Rivian.
Right. I just read a thing where they just spent a ton of money to be the EV ad in the metaverse, right? So why are they doing that? Who cares, right? And I honestly believe it's because they think moving forward, again, whether you agree with it or not, like it or not, prefer real life or not, it is inevitable that we will be spending a ton of time in this virtual world. And there's money to be made in ads, in real estate, in ownership of this world. So it's where the companies are going.
Yeah, agreed. Good stuff going on here. I see Scott. I see you, Scott. It would be so much better if you see these streams. The market isn't opening. You just got to focus on both. The market is open officially. It's such a good time though. The market is officially open. It's giving back some gains. At the top of the show, I mentioned the S&P was up about 0.5%. It's now only up around 0.25%. We'll see if that holds here. I'm not all that optimistic, but we'll see. The Dow's now only up around 0.3, and the NASDAQ is just teetering on green right now, about to turn red. And oil is making a resurgence here, now up 1%, heading back to $90 a barrel for WTI. All right, so next, see a couple of comments here. I don't want them to get lost. Bob says they'll control us. You'll do nothing, but you'll be happy. Indo Crypto says, imagine grocery shopping in the metaverse and receiving it at your door. That's the last thing I want to do in a virtual reality.
But Amazon's practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
just
we're already
did it.
doing
Yeah,
it. Right?
we're doing it right now.
Just without the
There's
goggles
a-
on our face.
Yeah, there's an Amazon Fresh right here where I live. And you literally you go shopping when you take any item off of the shelf and put it into the cart. It pops up on a screen in front of you. This is what you just put in the cart. This is what it was. And then when you leave, you don't stop at a checkout. You push your cart over this big blue ass light and it's like, thanks for your payment. And you take your bags and you leave. The only thing not virtual in that entire process right now is the actual store, right? But that's coming. So it's right. You will go virtual shopping and then somebody will deliver it, probably a drone at that point,
There you
right?
go.
I mean, it's
That's what I was
just
gonna say.
crazy. Yeah. It's
So
where
what
we're
is it going to
going.
be? You're going to have to feed yourself virtually because you're like your own little digipet.
No, man, you'll eat in real life, but you didn't even have to get off your seat to do it. Like you're literally in your seat. Well, I got to go grocery shopping. You go to the metaverse that's splashed with all kind of ads, right? Like it's whatever grocery store, and you go in there and you shop, and then a drone delivers it because we've taken away drivers as well. I mean, it's crazy, right? But it is where we're going. So let's focus on how can Metafy help us be ready for this sort of thing with their educational tools on crypto and the metaverse and everything else. And B, start thinking now about, wow, if I was alive when the internet, was around, if I'd have understood the internet, I could have made so much money knowing what I know now if I had that education then, right? So start focusing. What would you do in the metaverse if you had a heads up that it was coming? Right? Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Because that's why we're all here anyways. How the hell do I learn and forecast so that I can capitalize on this inevitability of the metaverse?
Which you can connect with the MetaFi group and the MetaFi fam over at our Discord. Links are in the description as well. You can find us over at the metafi.co. Hit the links in the description. Go check us out. We have all kinds of education on the metaverse, on cryptocurrency, on mining, and all kinds of other stuff that we are currently developing in our research and development department. Really great stuff, as Tamp was talking about, and that can all be found in the description below. Okay. By the way, did you guys like how I did that? Just fucking segue right in.
Well,
Just roll.
All right. Next up, we have the parabolic Bitcoin bull run. So Greg brought this to our attention off camera, and it says that there's a dormant coin supply, and I actually shared this on our MetaFi Twitter as well. There's apparently viewpoints that Bitcoin is closely tied to the Federal Reserve, and we know about that, but there's a dormant supply peaking that are springboarding an upwards price action. This is from the Bitcoin Layer newsletter. Greg, elaborate on this a little bit and tell us what it's all about.
Bro, you're muted,
I
bro.
can't hear.
still muted.
Damn.
Still muted.
I teed you right up.
I usually do that when I don't want to talk to someone on the phone.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't. You're crackling. I still can't hear you, Greg.
So meanwhile, and you interrupt Greg when you're ready. One of the posts that came out recently that pertains to all this is there's a large dormant, about $95 million worth of Bitcoin. I think it was like 5,000 Bitcoin that were moved into exchange, but it was a derivatives exchange. So that's where you long and you short on leverage. So that's a sign. Okay, someone who's been hodling for years now all of a sudden enters. You start seeing this type of movement. We're going to see some volatility kick in, pretty strong volatility. So it's
Yeah.
going to be very interesting.
I would like to, is the key that you said, if there's been a dormant wallet that's sat untouched for years, all of a sudden it moves. That is something to pay attention to. But a lot of times people look at these sort of things and they see massive transfers of Bitcoin or some other coin somewhere else, like into exchange. A lot of times those are just exchange coins, right? Exchanges have to fill their bags up as well because people like you and I buy off of them. So they have to fill that sort of stuff up as well. So I would like to make sure that this article is in fact looking at truly dormant private wallets versus wallets that are being, filled up for a specific purpose that, is just normal in today's market.
That would be some shit if that was just Peter moving some shit around.
It probably
I know.
is.
I was tempted to tag him on that move. I'm like, Peter, what you up to, buddy?
The Meta Bulgatti's on the way.
Greg, are you back with us?
I think so. Can you hear me now?
Nope.
Yes.
I can. Yeah. Hell
Yes,
yeah.
yes, we can hear you. Jesus, B. Smith.
That's all right.
So it's, to me, it's
We'll get
typical
you back
supply and
at some
demand,
point.
right?
No, we can't hear you.
No, we can.
Yeah, we can.
Brad,
he's just gonna go with it.
That's
Poor
okay.
Greg. Greg's
All
gonna
good.
flip
Greg,
his whole
you
you
desk.
roll with it, brother.
No, this desk was too expensive to flip.
Are we just gonna leave him here? Should we just leave him in the big ass screen?
Yeah,
I
you
know.
should.
Just letting him talk as he's
He's
muted.
speaking.
Yeah. Go ahead, Greg. Go.
Yeah, go.
Can you hear
Go,
me?
Greg.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Now I can't hear myself. No, I'm muted. I can't hear anything. I can't hear a damn thing.
All right. So,
Dysfunction.
like anything else, I mean, this is supply and demand, right? So if we've got a good amount of the available
this is
coin
hilarious.
locked up and hodl, then you're fighting over what's left, right? So limited demand, price skyrockets up. It all makes sense. Just are we close to that, right? Are we close to that mark, or is it going to go higher here before the actual bull run starts, right?
Absolutely. And the timing is it's very interesting because this hodler or this person that sold the 95 million worth of Bitcoin did not sell at the top of the market or did not move it to an exchange at the top of the market. They moved it now. So that means liquidity. And that means there's something big afoot.
Yep.
And-
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you honestly think that a lot of these bigger companies that want to get their buddies in don't have massive bags of probably Bitcoin that they are moving around now. I mean, they've had these huge bags. It's not like Samsung is just now getting into the Bitcoin game because they want an exchange, right? Like Samsung's had bags, let's be honest. So if I'm CEO of Samsung and Jaime, you're CEO of whatever, Netflix, and you and I are buddies, and you're like, hey, look, we have all these expectations now. We're in the new FANG list and this, that, and the other. We need Bitcoin because now we get it. It's inevitable, right? Hold on, bro. I got you. Let me move my big bag over there. Let me dump the price a little bit, and then we'll both scoot back up, and I'll make 25% more, and you'll finally get the exposure you've been wanting, right? And it's a little tinfoil hat. I get that, and it's a little oversimplified, but that sort of thing happens for sure.
Absolutely. And look at the macro picture. Look at what is happening. I mean, there's BlackRock is launching spot Bitcoin, where you can, as an investor, certified investor, you can own Bitcoin through BlackRock exchange. While we're in a bear market, this is what's happening. And now
Right.
you see these movements. So there's a lot of chess pieces being set up at this very moment. Do not be the pawn that sells at this moment.
Right.
Not financial advice, but just look at the plays being set up at this moment in the global market.
Yep. And you'll see what the real question is, the $64,000 question is, how low can these whales push the market to get their buddies in before they say, okay, we're good? I mean, they're not going to push the market back down to, $6,500 level Bitcoin.
Right.
According to Don, they'll get down to 10 grand, but we all know how that is going to go. I think it's not going to go any lower than about 12 grand. They're probably saying, get me into, the $13,000, $15,000 range, and, we'll deploy our capital, and boom, we'll all go back up. Right. And there's
Yep.
going to be a handshake agreement under the table, because if I'm the person that moved the market and sold my bags in the bear market, what do I get? Right? What am I getting? Well, okay, as soon as I buy up all my bags, I'll give you this amount of Bitcoin back. He'll give you that amount of Bitcoin back, and you're made whole again. Done deal. But now I just did you a favor. You owe me one. Right? So again, tinfoil hat, yes, but there's an idea of this going on in the background for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And even Don Ron's firing shots at you, Tam.
We still talking about Bitcoin. What's going on here?
He don't give a shit about the candle. He only cares about the wick.
I'm telling you, if his order does not fill at $9,999, I win.
I thought it was 12,000, the thin red line.
Yeah, that's right. 11,999.
So stay frosty, everyone. I mean,
Oh yeah.
do your own research and look at what the global market's doing, and that should give you an inkling of where we're headed. And Brad, are you with us? A voice came back.
I think so.
Yes.
That's what you get for talking shit, motherfucker.
Mhm.
It's like it was contagious or something. You just gave it to me. I have no idea what happened. I'm just sitting here. Were we still on the parabolic Bitbull run?
Oh
Yes.
yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm super pumped for that. I think that there's definitely some possibilities, and I think that we're seeing more and more actual institutions and analysts that weren't a part of any of the previous bull runs buy into this one and provide some really compelling arguments too.
Thank you for absolutely putting the nail in my coffin in my entire argument while you were resetting your equipment. It's exactly what I was saying.
It's going to be
Don
Don
very
needs to take notes and get on board. Just listen, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So last but not least, and I didn't for some reason I lost it. But Jaime, you were bringing up some things as far as Russia is concerned and
yes.
crypto.
So,
adoption.
so I want everyone who's been following the news, you'll see that they have they're started investing in
Switch
gold.
yourself over. Switch yourself
Oh,
over.
sorry. They've been investing in gold quite heavily, and they've been buying gold and selling gold to their allies, building up hard assets. And they also announced on Putin on one of his recent speeches of going after hard assets. Not only that, but they also started looking to compete against the world body of that prices gold out of London and New York, and launching a Russian version to start taking the power away from those two, the monopoly of gold pricing and precious metal pricing. So you're starting to see, and now they're squeezing, of course, that we all know, they're squeezing Europe for all the winter's coming. I mean, this is Game of Thrones, guys.
Yeah.
Winter's coming, and they're cutting the supplies down strategically, of course.
Oh yeah.
So you're starting to see these macro moves that may or may not trigger a few things, which started a very interesting conversation by Fajal _Inc. We're about to experience the sovereign debt crisis caused by Europe energy crisis, all a capstone on the 100-year fiat experiment. And he breaks down the steps that he sees. So Putin strong arms Europe by shutting off energy pipelines, causing a spike in prices. This causes energy prices to skyrocket in Europe, which is a major component of CPI, Consumer Price Index. This causes inflation to explode even higher. Then he moves on to the next step. As CPI explodes higher, electricity prices get passed on to consumers, which we've seen in the news, how eventually, at the risk of civil unrest and revolution over refusal to pay this, Euro government has two options. One, give in to Putin and let him have Ukraine and stop the sanctions to get energy flowing again. Or two, decide to deploy price caps on energy for consumers and print the difference. To achieve this, I believe the ECB needs to instill yield curve control to keep sovereign bond yields intact and avoid fragmentation of the European Union sovereign bonds. The game theory I've ascribed to this makes me think that the West is too far deep into this mess to give in to Putin and would rather print the difference. The saying goes, no government ever willingly went broke through austerity. They will always resort to printing, which we've seen ourselves. Printing the difference through YCC is going to cause the DXY to explode higher because 58% of DXY is the euro. DXY to $150 milkshake theory type shit.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, so I don't mean to cut you off, but you kind of
go.
get the what's going on here, and feel free to go follow this guy because he's brings some pretty compelling arguments. But we're already seeing this, right? I mean, Russia has already weaponized energy in the Nord Stream pipeline, and despite some of the warnings that the U.S. have given them over the years, and this is going back to the Donald Trump presidency. I mean, he was at the UN, and Germany laughed at him when he said,
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
and now it's like, well, now you're SOL, bro. And it is going to continue to cause some real big problems, both inflationary, obviously the energy side of things. Germany has done some good things. They've piled up some of their energy, some of the natural gas in preparation for the winter. But what happens after that, I think, is a big question. This will be the first time that they've actually relied on their reserves for any kind of length of time without bringing in natural resources. And so it's going to be really difficult to kind of see how things play out here. And so just to tie it back into cryptocurrency or investing, how this impacts you from that standpoint, I think that this only bolsters the case for something like a Bitcoin, does it not?
Absolutely. They just legalized using cryptocurrencies for cross-border payments. Russia did. was part of the hard asset game that we're seeing. So yes, and it is very easy to transfer crypto versus gold physically. So it is a case for cryptocurrencies. The
Not
big
as heavy.
question is-
It's not as heavy.
Absolutely. So
No, it's
go ahead.
as far as what you can do, you need to start buying up Bitcoin. Again, not financial advice. What I'm going to do, my strategy is to buy up Bitcoin to hold as a hard asset that increases in value, right? And then you do need to learn the DeFi strategy game, right? Because that's where you're going to earn your yield. Because one thing we're not talking about in here that was said also is that they're going to try to introduce yield curve caps, right? Like that's not good either. That does not do you well in traditional markets. And Brad can get into that, but that could essentially wipe out the middle class. And I loved how you brought up that it was a huge meme when Trump was telling Germany, you rely too much on Russia. You rely too much. And the camera literally panned to the German, to the German council, and they're all laughing at him. So we say no one saw this coming. That's not true at all. Our former president saw that coming. Right. And now here we are in this crisis where some of my European friends right now are absolutely freaking out because they cannot afford things right now. Small businesses, if you're a pub owner, how in the world can you afford these electric bills and energy bills that are coming in, right? Like wiping out small businesses, wiping out, making families have to choose between food or heat right in the winter. I mean, this is brilliant strategy on Putin's part. Like morality aside, the strategy is absolutely brilliant, right? And so you've got to learn how to hold your wealth in an absolutely hardened way that no one can get inside of it. And that is where Bitcoin comes in. And then you do need to learn the altcoin side of things. And we do need to continue to establish our DeFi strategy as a whole. So that way we're not privy to all these caps, that the yield caps they're talking about, the buying out of bonds. I mean, this could have major repercussions down the line. And the whole I never saw this coming thing isn't going to fly. That excuse isn't going to work.
Yes. Remember, Web 2 and everything before was a transfer of information. Web 3 is a transfer of value, truly value. And Bitcoin is the hardest asset out there. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. So it's a deflationary asset versus everything else out there. Gold, you can still dig for it.
Yeah. Share my screen, Jaime, real quick.
Yes,
So just to add this, so go follow us at Hello Metafy. But this is just an interesting from Europe itself. The European energy crisis worst days are ahead of us, according to CEO of Germany's Uniper. What we see in the wholesale market is 20 times the price that we have seen 2 years ago. 20 times it's gone up in 2 years, and it's only going to get worse. So if you guys want to, just another shameless plug here, go follow us at Hello Metafy and hit that like button, hit that thumbs up. Guys, we're running out of time, but these are topics that we're going to continue to dive into. But this, again, to Jaime, Tamp, and Greg's point, only bolsters the opportunities that Bitcoin can provide. And while we're not going to provide you guys with financial advice, it's one of those things where at least it's worth taking a look and doing your own due diligence and deciding for yourself whether or not you think that there is other alternatives to what has always been what would be considered quote unquote safe, even though it's not really all that safe.
excellent information. All right, guys, please follow us. Go to themetafy.co and visit us there. You have all the links you need to join the conversation. You have Discord link at the top of this chat. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow. It was a great show, team. Thank you so much. Have a great one,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Yeah. See you guys tomorrow.
See you
Bye-bye.
later.